Hey, it's John from Tinderbox Arts. So in this video, I'm going to be working on this old Ludwig snare. Now you can tell by the badge that this snare was made between 1960 and 1963. It's got the Keystone badge here. It's a little banged up, but it's there, and there's no serial number, so that's how we know it was in that time frame. Now I got this snare, I think it was actually given to me, many decades ago when I was a kid. It's kind of a hot mess. It's got a lot of issues, but I don't really want to do a full restore on it because it's charming to me, some of the flaws that it has. So the hardware I'm just going to basically leave alone. I'll clean up, but it's got some rust on it. I have the original top rim here. It's rusty. It's got some issues, but that's fine. I'm just going to clean it up so it doesn't rust too much more and just leave it. Now, the shell, though, has some issues that I need to fix. Now, on the outside, you can see here, it's got a covering. It's like a contact paper that was put over the original wrap. I think the original wrap is a blue sparkle, and I probably will replace that, but I got to look to see what condition it's in. And then the other big issue is that the bearing edges are really shot. I mean, they got a lot of issues. So that's going to be my main thing, is to work on the bearing edges. And so we'll take this thing apart, see what we can do. So even just with the top head off, boy, this bearing edge is pretty bad. It's also quite a wide bearing edge. It's interesting, unique. It's been sanded down, it looks like. I don't know. And I could see the edge of blue sparkle right here. I wish you could smell this. It's got a wonderful old, almost like a pine scent to it. All right, the moment of truth here, you can see the blue sparkle here, and this is that contact paper, which is decades old. I don't know how much luck I'm going to have getting this off. I'm just going to try to peel the edge here. And it looks like there's some kind of repair here. I'm not really sure what's going on there. If this stuff doesn't, oh God, that's on there. I'm not sure what I'm dealing with here. Yeah, it's some kind of repair to the, okay. It's a putty, I guess. Weird. Well, I'll get the rest of this off. Well, it's obvious that the contact paper is not going to come off on its own and leave anything worth anything. So I've started to peel off the original blue sparkle. And God, the wood underneath is actually beautiful. But I do have a problem. Let me finish peeling this. Here's my problem here. There's a big patch, which is not beautiful. And yeah, that does go down to the original wood, I think. What a shame, because I could actually use this. I could make something out of that. But anyway, let me finish getting the rest of this off. But this is going to be my issue right here. All right, after about 15 minutes of just painstakingly taking a razor blade and just working at this, this is what I'm left with. So I see why the putty was there originally. There's damage to the veneer here. And, this area is not looking so great either. Now, this is where the seam for the drum is itself anyway. And there's some blue sparkle left over there that I can't really even get off. But if you take away this one area right here, if I look at the rest of it, it's actually really nice. It reminds me of a boat from the 1950s. It's that same look to it. And I think maybe I can repair this to a degree that is acceptable. So here's the plan. I'm going to sand this down, and then I'm going to use it's basically Bondo is what it is. It's called a wood putty, but it's essentially Bondo. And I have colored Bondo. I used coloring in the Bondo before, and it's worked. So I'm going to try that and see if I can try to come close to this color here. I'll Bondo over this basically, then sand it. And then I know it's not going to be perfect. The patch is going to show through. But you know what? I think I can probably live with that. All right, I've done some sanding, and, well, it's interesting. I'm going to try to point this out with a close-up. But you see there's more blue sparkle wrap exposed. Well, the reason is they apparently tucked that blue sparkle wrap underneath the wood veneer. So I'm not sure how well that comes off on camera, but right here you can see there's a line that goes all the way through. And that's the blue sparkle wrap in there. All right, after a rough sanding, you know, the patch is obvious. I mean, I'm not going to hide it. With a finer sanding, this will smooth out a little bit nicer. But before I get to trying to stain this and see if I can match it and make it look halfway decent, I want to start working on the bearing edges because I don't want to mess up any new finish that I make. So I'm going to work on the bearing edges. Then I'll try some stains and see if I can make this look halfway decent. If I can't, again, there's always the backup of either going with a wrap or I could even paint over it if I wanted to. So this bearing edge is actually pretty easy compared to some other drums I've done. Basically, it's a 45 on the inside here, and I just use a router bit and I'll slowly raise it so I get near the end here, so I have a nice sharp point here. The outside, I'm going to have just a slight round over, almost not even noticeable hardly, and that'll be it. Right, now that I've cut this bearing edge, you can see better how that wrap is just integrated with the rest of the drum. So it goes from here all the way over to here. It's whatever, 2.5 inches. So there's no way you're going to get that out. So in covering it like I did here, I think I am going to avoid putting another wrap on it. I'm going to try to stain this first. Now what I decided to do was use a gel stain. Now this sits on the surface rather than soaks in, so that patch area, this will sit on the surface. You'll still be able to see the patch probably, but it'll be much less noticeable. And I've chosen, this color is called Coffee. It's a very dark color. I think it's going to look really nice. But before I get to that step, a few more things I need to do. The bearing edge here is nice and sharp. I'm not going to do a final hand sanding on that until I've done the finishing because I may screw it up a little bit. The inside is painted, and rather than mess with that, which I think would be a mistake, I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to clean it up. It may not look perfect, but that's fine. It's the inside of the drum. And of course, before I do any staining, I need to do a final sanding here. This is just a rough sanding. For the clear coat, I'm using this EM9300 product. Brilliant stuff, and it's water-based, so it dries quickly, cleans up easily. Great stuff. So the hardware went on pretty easy. You know, the shell is slightly thinner now because it doesn't have that cover. So on the inside, not everywhere, but a couple areas I had to put an additional washer behind the original one just to space it out enough so that the lug itself didn't interfere with screwing the screw or the bolt down all the way. But otherwise it's going pretty easily. You know, this inside edge here I left unstained, but I did cover it with that polyurethane, which is a really tough clear coat just to protect it. And the edge feels pretty good here. I'm pretty pleased with that. Throw off is working good. It's all looking pretty good. This badge I did, I mean, it's a little bit tight, but I managed to get a new grommet in there. So it all looks pretty good. So all I have to do now is put the heads on and the rims and get everything tightened up, and then we'll give it a play, see what it sounds like. But the look of it, I'm pleased with. You know, I almost forgot to mention, when I cut this bottom bearing edge, traditionally there's an area right here on a wood shell which is slightly relieved for the snares, you know, the string in this case, to sit in. And you know, I debated whether to leave that or not. So there was some relief there before, so I left some of it in, but it's not a whole lot. All right, it's all back together. I'm very pleased the way it came out. It really looks great, and the color worked out just perfect. I mean, it looks vintage, but you know, it still fits in with the modern drums, so I could put it on a modern drum set and not feel weird about it. And you know, the hardware looks vintage, looks dated. There's not rust, but you know, there's a certain amount of corrosion and stuff on there, which looks kind of cool. I'm really pleased with it, and I'm glad I went to the effort to make this work. And you know, if I get bored with this in the future, I can always take this hardware back off, put a wrap on it, and put the hardware back on. So I haven't precluded that.